Secretary Clinton, thank you very much for coming tonight. As a naval flight officer, I held a top secret sensitive compartmentalized information clearance, and that provided me access to materials and information highly sensitive to our warfighting capabilities. Had I communicated this information not following prescribed protocols, I would have been prosecuted and imprisoned. Secretary Clinton, how can you expect those such as myself, who were and are entrusted with America's most sensitive information, to have any confidence in your leadership as president when you clearly corrupted our national security?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now to talk more about that as we welcome you back to America Talks Live is Larry Klayman, former federal prosecutor, founder of Freedom Watch. Hello, Larry.
Hello, Steve.
All right, before we get to the email, I'm doing fine. Thanks for joining me. Before we get to the conversation yesterday on the Intrepid and Hillary's new email excuse, which involves headers, let me ask you about the James Comey. James Comey now under criticism for a document dump, releasing the notes of the Hillary Clinton interview on Friday afternoon before Labor Day, and giving some cockamamie excuse that he had to expedite it as soon as possible, blah, blah, blah. Now you got Hillary, and also saying it wasn't even close to indict Hillary. It was, and now the Clinton camp is using that. There's been, people who are very unhappy with the FBI director's actions. What about you?
They've been more than unhappy, and I'm more than unhappy. I'll tell you, I think that James Comey, who before was thought to be an honest and open guy, and he has a nice way about him, but he's behaved in an incredibly unethical and dishonest way. And I think he should either resign or be impeached. I think the Republicans in Congress should finally have the guts to take some action here, regardless of how it may appear, because it's clear not just from his initial reading of what Hillary Clinton had done, that she had committed crimes, acted extremely recklessly. And in fact, we know it wasn't extremely recklessly. She was having 13 cell phones destroyed, smashed with hammers, some of them. And a conduct like that, using the type of software that would erase emails permanently. Her lawyers did that. The lawyers should be indicted along with her, Williams and Conley, David Kendall. They orchestrated this. It shows you that people are above the law. And Comey simply looked the other way. He took the easy way out. Perhaps he felt that if he had gone against Hillary Clinton, he would never be appointed to another position in Washington because the Democrats would block him. Maybe he was blackmailed. Maybe information that they got through the NSA or whatever was used against him. But frankly, he's disgraced the agency. And in fact, just the other day, in making these excuses that it wasn't even a close call not to indict Hillary Clinton, he was in front of former CIA agents and others who were highly critical of him. So I'm very sorry to say, because he seems to be on the surface a nice man, but he should no longer be FBI director. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, well, you answered my motivation question, and I was going to bring up, I always bring up the possibility that, so many bizarre things happen. There must be a file on everybody, and if anybody could get a file on anybody, it would be the Clintons. And who the heck knows what was said on that plane with Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch, and the subsequent, a couple of days later, the announcement by Comey, which shocked everybody in his logic. And then this, it just doesn't make any sense. Okay.
Well, in fact, as you know, Steve, to interject a little bit, back in the 90s, they did get 900 FBI files, the Clintons. Hillary was the source of that, an adversary. So there's a pattern here of blackmailing people, and perhaps Comey was blackmailed.
Interesting. Okay. What's going on with Colin Powell? Colin Powell disowned Hillary Clinton's claim several weeks ago that, Colin Powell had dinner with me and told me he had to use a private email, blah, 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 blah. And Powell told People magazine, or his people did, she's trying to pin it on me. And now we find out the Democrats in Congress, I think, in one committee, have released an email correspondence between Powell and Hillary that Hillary's touting today, and her people are touting, that, oh, yeah, see, he did write me, and we did talk about using a private email. Why is Hillary picking a fight with Colin Powell?
Well, I'm not sure she's picking a fight with him. What she's doing is exposing him. Colin Powell is not the most straightforward person. I mean, here's a guy, and I didn't care for George W. Bush very much. I mean, everybody knows that. I thought he was, frankly, not suited to be president, even less than Hillary Clinton in many ways. Not Clinton's dishonest and a criminal. W just didn't know what he was doing. But the reality is that Powell double-crossed President George W. Bush when he was Secretary of State. He went behind his back. He did all kinds of things that, frankly, just simply undercut the president. The man has no sense of right and wrong. And frankly, I think the only reason that he ever supported Obama was because he felt an affinity to Obama for obvious reasons. So Hillary is now the successor to Obama. He's helping her out. And frankly, he's not much better than she is. So let's prosecute both of them.
Let me ask you about Hillary's latest email defense. Yesterday at that Commander-in-Chief Forum on the Intrepid here in New York City, Matt Lauer, she brought up for the first time, and we played this many times in the show already today, Larry, she brought up headers. She said that, the whole standard argument in defense was, I never sent or received anything marked classified, blah, 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 blah. She tells the FBI she thought C, which meant classified, stood for paragraph C, even though there was never a paragraph A or B. So now she comes up with, starting yesterday, that she said, Matt, if anything is sent, classified or top secret, whatever, it says that in the header. And I never saw any header that said classified or whatever. What is this?
Well, that's nonsense. She just thought that one up. I mean, she could have used that for the last year. Okay, but the reality here is that she's basically indicted herself, because also during that interview she said, I am very well versed in what's classified information, what is confidential information. Well, if she's so well versed in it, why didn't she know that there was the C on those markings on the email saying classified? And why did she then use a private server when, in fact, as she said, she took all these precautions when she was traveling to prevent the breach of information? And this gets back to Benghazi. We're coming up to the September 11th anniversary, and my clients, Charles Wood and Patricia Smith, their sons died. They died at the hand, we firmly believe, and we're going to prove it even more than what we already have, because she used a private server. It gave up the location of Ambassador Chris Stevens to cyber attacks, such as from Iran, Russia, China, that obviously was turned over to the terrorists. It killed my client's sons. We have a wrongful death suit. Why didn't Matt Lauer ask that question about having blood on her hands as a result of using that private email server? That's the big question. Of course, Matt Lauer is an ultra-leftist, and when I looked at the interview, I thought he was giving her pretty much of a free ride and trying to humiliate Donald Trump.
And you see the left has said just the opposite, which many fear or gloat about, if you're on the left, will give Lester Holt a pass, his NBC colleague who's going to moderate one of the debates, to go easy on Hillary to make up for what Matt Lauer did.
Well, that's the way it works, and it's tit for tat. But Matt Lauer, I've had experience with him myself. I mean, he's just a nasty, vicious leftist. I don't know why Trump ever allowed him to be interviewed.
Yeah, well,
be the interview.
Well,
that matter.
Yeah, well, and of course, when it comes to the moderators, most of them, not all of them, are on the left. Chris Wallace, the only one from Fox, and he believe me, he's going to bend over backwards to be quote unquote fair, and he's going to be very tough on Trump. And I don't believe he's going to be that tough on Hillary. That's just my opinion. All right, so let me ask you, Andy McCarthy, the great Andy McCarthy, also like yourself, a former federal prosecutor, was on with me yesterday, and he said the Congress, you talked about impeaching Comey. He said Congress has the right and the House can impeach Hillary, and they certainly have the votes if they want to do it, because they talk about how she really committed a crime. They talk about how she lied to Congress. They talk about everything that Comey got wrong. They could use articles of impeachment, draw them up, talk about them as crimes and misdemeanors, and impeach her. And I said to Andy McCarthy, that might be possible if you had a leadership in the Republican Party that actually wanted Donald Trump to be president. What do you think?
Well, you're absolutely right, Steve, 100%. It's a disgrace, frankly, that our nation that prides itself on having the best legal system in the world, but that's not true, that Brazil just impeached and convicted a president. She had to leave office. And what was the high crime and misdemeanor? Mismanaging the budget and not telling the truth about it. Now, if that's the case, how many times would Obama and Clinton be subject to impeachment? They also are trying a former president for bribery. And Israel has thrown his former prime minister, Omer, in prison. So where are we in the United States? We live in this Pollyanna world where the establishment of both political parties cover for each other. They love to go on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News, but they really don't do anything for the American people. And we're collapsing under a sea of corruption. And James Comey, who's supposed to be the most honest, the most neutral person in our government, has thrown us under the bus. He took a dive, and he should be the poster boy, frankly, for cleaning up the system at this point, because he is not supposed to be politically connected, and he did the wrong thing, and that's why he released all this stuff on a Friday before Labor Day. He didn't want to have to account for what he did.
Larry, always great to talk to you, my friend. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, folks. Up next, you're not going to want to miss this. Jesse Ventura had a sit-down with me yesterday. We aired part of it on the Steve Malzberg Show last night at 7 p.m. Eastern. I hope you'll watch it every day as well. You're not going to want to miss our conversation about his book. He wants marijuana legalized, but I found out he wants much more than that. Don't go away.